And now for one more final look at development of research questions. You would think about, as broad as education research is, that you would have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds and hundreds of ways to ask research questions. But in reality, when we're talking about quantitative research, where we're going to be collecting the numerical data and then running some type of statistical analysis, we really only have three types of research questions. And so I want to review those three types and see what the format for those three would look like. The first type of research question asks, is there a significant difference between blank and blank? And then ultimately, it's the researcher who fills in those blanks with whatever would fit for the researcher's topic. This is usually when we know that students are going to be divided into groups, and then we're asking if there's a difference in their performance between the groups. Remember, this has to be operationally defined, so we'd want to say something like, is there a significant difference of the third grade TCAP reading scores between the students who are on free and reduced lunch and those who are not? And so we've already got students divided into groups. We're putting in there exactly what it is we're going to be measuring as the dependent variable, and that's one type of research question. The second type asks, what is the relationship between blank and blank? And so now I'm asking, between these two variables, are they correlated? And then we'll ultimately would determine, are they correlated positively, negatively, is the correlation significant? So what's the relationship between the amount of time a student spends on the with a computer-aided intervention and their subsequent scores on a math achievement test? And so we would have two different pieces of data that we would be pulling for those students in that study: the number of minutes on that computer-aided intervention, and then their ultimate achievement score, and then we can analyze that to ask, what is the relationship between? The third and final type of research question for quantitative research is, to what extent can one thing predict another thing? And so this is going to be where we know two variables have a relationship, and we want to know if we can predict from one to the other. You might ask, to what extent can the number of years that a teacher has in the classroom predict her students' success on a certain test that you choose? And so those are really the three kinds of questions we could ask. I do want to point out that all three of those questions naturally lend themselves to a certain set of statistical procedures that would be used to analyze the data. This is really beyond the scope of our master's level research class, but just so you see, when a researcher asks, is there a significant difference between, the researcher is going to be then conducting one of these tests, and there's others, but those are four in particular, either a t-test, a ANOVA, ANCOVA, or MANOVA. When a researcher asks what's the relationship between, they'd be conducting one of those statistical analysis, or when they ask that prediction question, they would be asking using one of those regression or discriminant analysis procedures. Again, those are more in line for study in a stats class, but you begin to see, even at the research design level, how I ask the question is going to be related to how I analyze the data. And by the way, it's also, of course, related to what kind of data you can get on students. Just a word about qualitative research. If a researcher is conducting qualitative research, a case study, an ethnography, a content analysis, or a direct observation, that researcher is not limited to these kind of formulaic types of questions. Researchers in the qualitative side can pretty well ask the question almost however they want to. Very few limitations. But on the quantitative side, if we're going to collect numbers in our research, it pretty well has to be worded one of these three ways on that slide.